As you saw, most situations and ideas created or perpetuated by the monetary system are immoral, insufficient, and based more on imagination than reality. Moreover, these situations, ideas, and problems can be solved or improved by the abundance of goods and services, as well as education. But, as we have seen, these solutions cannot be applied in the monetary system which has created or perpetuated. To move to a resource-based economy, a system without wars, politics, or poverty, a society which will produce a significant reduction of criminality by creating abundance, you must ask some questions about the current system. We saw that the monetary system, which relies heavily on the agreement of individuals to accept papers as valuable, and auto-limitation through money, although they no longer have any relevance today, maintains a constant inequality between people, creating social classes, functions, degree of education, etc., which leads directly to a system with problems. To judge another system, another organization of human beings, you should relate to your current system. So, do not forget, in this system you do not choose to participate. Even if you choose not to participate, it's almost impossible to survive due to restrictions. Same happens with access to information, comfort, etc. The monetary system relies heavily on imagination. Think about the documents that create your identity. These are only papers and are very easy to replicate. How can the monetary system be trusted when there are many people on planet Earth that replicate various currencies and use them, like citizens of this system do, without working for them? When every day millions of spam are sent, thousands of them scams struggling to obtain money unlawfully. We live in an unequal society. Because of this inequality among us, we have to guard our goods to prevent others from stealing. How can you feel safe in a society like that? How are you not saddened by the fact that there are so many people without anything in this system? Deprivation is a mockery of humanity. How are you not afraid that people who have nothing to lose might kill you for food, like wild animals? How do you walk on the streets, knowing that there are thousands, if not millions of such people, who have no food to survive? Or, how do you accept that individuals from your own species are starving? How do you pass by those people and remain indifferent?
Jay, we're here in Cleveland, Ohio. You're homeless.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about it.
It's extremely difficult these days. Like many other people, I lost my job. My home was foreclosed. I wound up being homeless about 2 years now. There are groups, support groups, that will help you with certain things, but it's like you get the runaround everywhere you go. See this guy, see this guy, see that guy. I would like to see, if possible, that these services and things that are available could be condensed into one central group, one bureau, or whatever you might call it, where you could go to get whatever need you have to a certain place, not be running over here for this, over there for that, back here for this, come back Tuesday, come back Friday. You spend your time spinning your wheels, not getting what you need.
How do you survive?
I survive with a little bit of help from food stamps and a few friends that I have helping me here and there. Shelters, churches that are nice enough, like this one centrally here, provides you at least a good meal on the weekend, and just faith. Just keep trying.
If you had 3 wishes, what would they be?
If I had 3 wishes, I believe first I would wish that everyone would treat everyone as equals. The man that has $100,000 job is no better person than the guy that's picking up garbage on the corner for somebody. We're all the same. We're all human beings. Why can't we just help each other? That would be my first wish. And I think if everyone did that, I might not even need 2 more wishes. If everybody helped everybody and got along, we'd all be all right.
Thank you very much for talking to me.
Yes, sir.
In a system with so much deprivation, we have prisons that offer a bed, daily food, and a roof over your head. Some even have special programs for inmates to be entertained and allow them to learn. It's insane to think that people that do nothing wrong battle to survive, but those that harm others have the necessities of life provided for them. How do you remain calm when the justice system is based on a language that is subject to interpretation? Everything you say can be interpreted the way the listener wants. How safe do you feel knowing you are obedient in front of authority? Obedience which is driven by the fear of being deprived of your current status. Remember that the monetary system is a service system. You recognize people by uniform, some documents, papers, and this is dangerous because they can be forged easily. How do you trust the food offered by the system when it is produced by companies that just want profit? Consider advertising methods that encourage you to buy low-quality products which don't perform as well as they claim. What do you think about those people in advertising that take advantage of your subconscious, making you a prolific consumer, that do tests on children to find out how to get people to buy their products? How can a monetary system work if people are not motivated by money? What do you think about a system that ignores the planet's resources, does not care about Earth's carrying capacity, and continues to use oil to generate energy despite renewable energy being abundant? How can you feel free in a society with so many laws, knowing that the laws do not solve problems but only punish those who disobey? The justice system does not lead anywhere, so you will not get rid of these laws. On the contrary, they will multiply. What do you think about the fact that low-quality goods are produced intentionally to maintain the market? Do you not feel it is a waste of resources? Do you not feel that it's a mockery? Your health is in danger with such a system that asks you to exchange money for your eventual repair. What if you do not have money? What if you do not have enough money? It is shocking that you can die while solutions exist for your treatment. It's insane to think that you can die because you do not own some papers without any actual value. How can you trust the health system when it values profit over your health? Are you not scared of an overpopulated world, which is the result of our culture? The idea of the family makes people want to have 1 or more children, and this idea is created and perpetuated by the culture. Do you not fear this? Do you not feel offended that you had to learn an old and inefficient language that you can share with only a few people? It was decided for you by the area in which you were born, called a country. Isn't it ridiculous that people are still separated by things like nationality, while our real value as a species is not recognized? Many people believe politicians are corrupt, yet they still support the system that enables them. How can you support something that you believe to be corrupt? Why let your life decisions be made by other people? Can't you take care of yourself? Do you prefer having your decisions made by others? Do you not find it hard to live in a world where everyone has a right to an opinion that leads to a total chaos? What is the value of your opinion? If you say that religion is an invention, will it improve anything? You have to pay money for food and water. Necessities of life that no one owns. Why should you pay for them? Just because you were born on planet Earth? Everyone wants to benefit from the system, but benefiting often leads to others being neglected. This naturally leads to stealing, which requires officers to prevent. People without access to necessities try to obtain goods and services by any means, often not accepted by the system because everything here is based on money and ownership. How safe do you feel knowing that people will always try to take advantage of others, and possibly you? Do you not find it chaotic in a system where people rely more on movies than scientific documentaries? People draw conclusions from Terminator and E.T. on some important subjects. Are you not afraid of people committing crimes with your identity in a system where everything is subject to interpretation? What do you think about a system that creates billions of decorative elements when hundreds of thousands of people die daily of starvation and hundreds of thousands do not have shelter? Don't you think it's crazy that there is a massive gap between present technology and the devices produced? There is also a gap between what the average person knows and what scientists have discovered. For example, do you know how your refrigerator works? What about your mobile phone? Can you enumerate 5 internal organs of your body? Do you know how they work? Do you not find it hard to form solid ideas in a system that allows thousands of conspiracy theories? A society that leaves room for interpretation, and a society where religion is conveyed as truth when science contradicts it with verifiable results. How do you trust people that believe there is a creature in the sky who watches everything you do, and if you don't believe in him, you will be sent to hell where you will burn eternally? Those people cannot present any proof of that, and still they are considered to be normal. Even more, most of them populate the planet, and the monetary system does nothing to clarify this situation. What do you think about the fact that most of the children are told that this story is real, the story of religion? How crazy is it to say to a child that if he doesn't pray, and if he is not a faithful person, he will burn eternally in hell? Why does the system allow this situation? Don't you ever wonder why you collect so many objects even though you may not use them? Don't you ever wonder why we have to constantly replace items? What is this race all about? Aren't you tired? Remember, sexual attraction, pheromones, sex. Now, we have 1. The culture accepted by the monetary system promotes the family idea. The idea of family is one where a male and a female live together for life. Same-sex partners, sexual attraction to others, need for sex, pheromones. 2. Sexual scarcity. Constant coverage of certain parts of the body create curiosity. People of this tribe do not wear clothes, and that is as normal for them as wearing clothes is for you. They are not curious about others' body because it is not withheld from them. 3. Promoting sexuality in movies, commercials, TV shows. What can you get from here? Aberrations such as rape, paedophilia, necrophilia, zoophilia, prohibiting natural events like sex by culture and promoting sexuality through media while maintaining scarcity will lead to such behavior. Don't you think defining beauty culturally is negative? People born with small abnormalities often get ridiculed, as do people with physically grotesque injuries. An environment so negative about these things can't be good for our society. Aren't you worried that many nations have armies and weapons of mass destruction? You could be caught in the middle, and you have nothing to say about that. Aren't you alarmed that wars which solve nothing represent the biggest business in the world? And because of that, wars will never end? Isn't it dangerous with so many weapons in the world? Don't you find it dangerous for people to have weapons with all the inequality and conflicting ideas we have? Don't commercials confuse you? Which companies can you truly trust? What's your opinion about a system that sells luck through gambling? Don't you think it's crazy when so many people are starving? Don't you ever wonder why this man has so many and you have nothing? Don't you find it unfair to rely on the family you were born in? Aren't you scared about the fact that, in the monetary system, the aging problem doesn't count? Even if anti-aging treatments exist, you will not benefit from them. Only wealthy people will benefit. Do you not feel offended that some people earn lots of money just because they look good according to the monetary system's standards? Aren't you tired of others telling you how to dress? Aren't you sick of politicians' lies? I mean, they should be improving society, otherwise what's their purpose? Don't you find it absurd that budgets for war are substantially better than for scientific research? With automation replacing lots of jobs, aren't you afraid of losing yours? Without a job, you lose the ability to acquire food, so you could die as a result. Currently, 3D printers or other technologies can create gold or diamonds, which are considered precious materials in the monetary system. Many people have such materials. Aren't they afraid that their goods will lose value? Does anybody wonder why these materials are considered valuable? It's because they are scarce materials on this planet. Why do you allow your identity to be created through documents, your possessions, or your job? Why do you have a job that you hate? Don't you wonder why there are so many types of food instead of a few types of food, but enough for everybody? What do you think about a society that allows the consumption of cigarettes that cause cancer? Or alcohol? Why do you need alcohol? Could you not find happiness without it? Do you not feel sad watching others talk about their lives? And they are paid by the system for that. The monetary system includes religion in the payment system.
When a psychiatrist pledges that he wants to help people, and a man comes to a psychiatrist and says, I'm in debt, I can't pay my bills, I'm on minimum wage, my car broke down, I got 2 kids, the psychiatrist is going to cost you $60 an hour. How can you be a psychiatrist? How can you cater to human need in a monetary system? So the system generates predatory behavior, where we take advantage of other people. Most people are out to take care of themselves. So if you don't take care of yourself, no one's going to take care of you. And so they make us predatory. The system is like that. Or you say, well, I think it's up to each individual. If you really study it, you'll find that each individual is made to conform to the social institutions that exist. If they don't conform, they wind up as vagrants in prison, or they have difficulty getting a job if they don't conform. So you're pressed by many different forces to conform. If you walked around without any clothing, because you don't believe in clothing, you'll be picked up and arrested, put in jail. If you continue to do that, you might be put in a mental hospital. I met what they call bums that were so well read that they didn't want any part of the system. They lived in poverty. All of us are erroneous in our values due to the early part of our historical upbringing. We are given a set of values that do not work. Proof: we have war, recession, hunger, poverty, starvation, illness.
You have to ask these questions.
Have been conditioned in their kind of society to get a different kind of car next year, to buy a new television set or a tape recorder. We are radical as hell, but our political and social institutions have not changed. And this is where we are stagnating, because we always equate any new idea with communism or regimentation, because we've been brought up to fear that which is new. And I think that Christ was a radical. He brought new ideas, but it took time, thousands of years, for people to really appreciate ideas.
Take any crazy idea. Well, I don't know, it's hard to make up a very crazy one thing, witches or something like that, and you tell about what people used to believe in witches, and of course nobody believes in witches now, and you say, how could they believe in witches? Then you turn around and you say, let's see, what witches do we believe in though? What ceremonies do we do? Every morning we brush our teeth. What is the evidence that the brushing the teeth does us any good in cavities? So you start wondering, are we all, imagine as the Earth turns on the orbit, there's an edge between light and dark. And along that edge, all the people along that edge are doing the same ritual for no good reason. Just like in the Middle Ages, they had other rituals, and you try to picture this perpetual line of toothbrushes going around the Earth. It's to take the world from another point of view. Now, it may well be that brushing teeth is a very good thing because it gets rid of cavities, and you can find out whether it does or it doesn't by trying to find out. Now, you can ask your dentist. He says, of course. And you say, how are the evidence? I have not found the evidence from dentists because they just learned it in school. Now, I'm not trying to argue that it's good or bad to brush teeth. What I'm trying to argue for is to think about things from a new point of view.
I gave up on this stuff. I gave up on my species, and I gave up on my fellow Americans. I gave up on my countrymen. Because I think we squandered great gifts. I think humans were given great, great gifts. Walking upright, binocular vision, opposable thumb, large brain, making tools. Make tools, large brain, make better tools. Talk, have to like language. You take this, put in here. We learned language, the brain got bigger, language. We grew. We had great gifts, and we gave it up, all up for both for both money and God. God and mammon, both. We gave it up to the high priests. It's your job. God's will. That's what they say. People say it's God's will. That means God can do anything he wants, so why pray? They say you pray for something. Okay, he didn't answer my prayers. Well, it's God's will. Well, if it's God's will, why did I even pray in the first place? He's going to do what he wants anyway. We gave it all up to superstition, primitive superstition, primitive shit. With invisible man in the sky looking down, keeping track of what we do, make sure we don't do the wrong thing. If we do, he puts us in hell or we burn forever. That kind of shit is very limiting. It's very limiting for this brain we have. So we keep ourselves limited, and then we want a toy and a gizmo and gold, and we want shiny things, and we want something to plug in that'll make big things for us. And all that shit is nothing. It's nothing. We gave it all up. And Americans, who also had great gifts, when you take the theory of democratic rule, self-government, okay, they started off wrong. They owned slaves. They didn't let women vote. They didn't let people who didn't own land vote. Fine. They got off on the wrong foot. But the ideas were good. Well, we fucking blew that. We polluted it. We polluted it with this stuff, things, material goods, games, gizmos, toys, gadgets, having possessions. He's got a bigger truck. He says, she his truck. It's bigger than mine. I'm getting a new truck. Here's a big truck. Oh, I'm getting that one. That's what, you got a video in it? You DVD too? He don't have a DVD. I got a DVD, whatever happened? And all of that is what happened, you know? And that's why I'm divorced from it now. I see it from a distance. I give myself a divorce. I said, George, emotionally you have no stake in this. You don't care one way or another. So watch it. Have fun. You know what? I say it this way. When you're born in this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show. And when you're born in America, you're given a front row seat. And some of us get to sit there with notebooks. And I'm a notebook guy now, huh? Oh my God, did you see that? And I watch the freak show, and I get my notes, and I make up stuff about it, and I talk about the freaks. And the freaks are all humans, and they're like me, and they're all the same. We're all the same. I'm not better, I'm not different. I'm just apart now. I'm separate. I'm over here because I put myself out of the mix. I don't have a stake in the outcome. I'm not a cheerleader for a given outcome now. Oh, they say if you scratch a cynic, you'll find a disappointed idealist. And I would admit that somewhere underneath all of this, there's a little flicker of a flame of idealism that would love to see it all change.
The monetary system seems likely to collapse. I said it seems because I cannot know if it will happen or not. So far, we've examined the monetary system and seen how harmful it is, and we presented solutions to improve the situations created by the monetary system. We now realise that these solutions are needed, because all evidence points towards this system collapsing. This is some of the evidence which points towards a collapse. To get any kind of goods or services, you need money, and the only way to get money is work. Basically, you have to do something for the monetary system to receive money. Now, just from here, this collapse comes. People without a job will not have purchasing power. Remember, the monetary system has a massive problem when there are fewer jobs than unemployed people. As we saw when we talked about work, jobs are increasingly replaced by automation through machinery. This is an ongoing and progressive process. It doesn't matter if your job is irreplaceable at the moment. If hundreds of thousands of people cannot work anymore, then there will be problems. You are not the only participant in the monetary system. People will not have purchasing power. It doesn't matter if the prices fall or some salaries increase. If the majority of the population does not have purchasing power, there will be major problems. The second situation is represented by the monetary system's inability to cope with technology. Let's just refer to two technologies.
All that stuff can just be built into the parameters, so the person's not designing. The person isn't expected to be an architect. They just know what their intent is, and they just push their intent around, and the computer gives them all the assistance as though they are sitting with an architect right behind them. So now you got 3D scanning getting into the computer, tweaking it around, doing it automatically so that you don't have a skilled professional needed to do everything you do. Now you have to spit it out and make something useful out of it, and this is where things get fun. Digital fabrication, you can call it absolutely anything because it's in a semantic nightmare here. These are all the names that I could come up with in 5 minutes for it, but it has a lot more. It's an engineering tool, so nobody knows what to call it. But basically what it is, it's an additive process, as you guys have seen with the MakerBot and stuff you have back here. It's additive. That's the main difference, is that you're assembling molecules either by layer or by dust particle or by liquid that's being sintered or liquid being deposited. You're doing that layer by layer by layer. You do it enough times and you get a pretty good facsimile of what you originally intended. So that's a typical machine. This is a liquid-based machine. If you're going to be designing car wheels, it'd be really hard to machine each one out of a block of plastic and get the likeness. Better to just do your design, send it out to print, come back the next day, pull it out of the oven, and ready to go. So about the whole situation, though, is that complexity is free when you're doing additive fabrication. And now suddenly you're kind of being challenged, if anything, to see if you can be as creative as the tool lets you be. because it can do far more than your brain could ever handle. That's what I think is really exciting about it, is that it really doesn't have limits to it. Just talking about metals, you know, that's one of the new exciting things. Metals used to be a real pain, now they're getting good. Turbine blades, you know, things that are really difficult to machine or make any other way. You can make really high definition, really high quality metal parts now. Medical stuff, I have plan before you cut. You know, what a cool thing is, okay, if you come in and you've fallen off your hoppity horse and you've destroyed your shoulder, and they have to figure out, okay, you've got bone fragments all over the place. They have to strategize before they go in and have you under gas. So, well, they can actually do MRI, get your bone structure, MRI or CT, one of those, get your bone structure, get the DICOM data, three-dimensionally print the whole thing, and then strategize on it before they open you up. So they know where all the parts are, and they know what part's going to come out and which are going to get rearranged in which way. So there's John in a 3D body scan. There's a parametric model. So this model can take any human, you drop it in, you say, okay, reinstantiate. There's John's sound side leg mirrored over, dropped into the parametric model before instantiating. And there's the new leg. So this is this leg. It gives him a sense of symmetry back. You know, it's kind of a big deal. It has a 7-bar linkage, so the motion of the knee is perfectly calibrated to a human motion. It moves through the same motion that we do. The foot is sprung just like our own ankle. The gastrocnemius here, the calf muscle, that's sprung according to the person's weight and activity level. So that will give spring back with each step. Something that, because you're printing all pieces at once, you don't have the titanium mounting parts and all the other details. You just print the whole thing, complexity and all. It's hollow, so there's a rib structure inside, just like a bird wing. That keeps it really strong and really light simultaneously.
Which materials can you use? Just plastic and metal?
There's plastics, metals, ceramic, glass, all kinds of polymers, ABS type, PVC type. This is polyamide type. There may be 20 types of polyamides, carbon-filled, fire retardants, almost. They're biopolymers. The guy to talk to is Andrew Hessel, and he is part of the faculty here at Singularity. He knows about that stuff. I don't know about bio stuff, but yes, there's a ton of work going on in biopolymers and all that collagen scaffolding and all that stuff. It's wild stuff. That's a huge area that's happening.
And can you print different materials in the same?
There's only one machine that'll do that. It is the Objet Eden machine, I think, that will do multiple materials simultaneously. Typically, metals are in their own world, polyamides are in their own world. There's one machine that'll do a handful, and it'll do like polymers and elastomers and colors. It won't do different classes like metals. Everybody's waiting for that day. You know, that day comes when you can just print anything you dream up, and things will be exciting then. The reason they can't do gold is they can print gold, no problem. But it would be $240,000 to take this titanium out and fill it with gold, fortunately.
Yeah, I was just curious about the durability and strength of the metals after they're printed as compared to just other manufacturing techniques.
Yeah, the metals are incredibly strong. They're almost entirely, well, they're not entirely dense out of the process, but you can hit it with something called HIP, which stands for hot isostatic pressure, where they heat it to its near melt point and a zillion PSI, and that will knock out any errant molecules, and then it's like 99.9% solid and dense. So if you're doing like medical stuff like knees and hips, then you hit it with a HIP process, and then it's as strong as anything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What is the largest you can do with that?
One machine in Belgium called the Mammoth machine that will do 2 meters, and 2 meters by 1 meter by 20 inches or something. So they're big machines like that. There isn't a lot of demand for big yet.
Would you be able to print food?
There are food printers all over. Yeah, there are a number of those. There's some examples you'll find of like printed pretzels. There's the cupcake maker that I think MakerBot has some variation that does that. There's if anyone ever goes to Chicago, there's a restaurant called Moto, M-O-T-O, and you've been there? Yeah, it's supposed to be really cool. They print on the tortillas and you eat the menu, but they're doing a lot of really experimental stuff with repurposed HP plotters and really cool stuff. Yeah, 3D printing food is not far off. Mm-hmm.
What else can we expect in the coming decade?
What my company's going to roll out pretty soon, which is going to be really cool. We're in stealth. I can't say a thing about it. It's really cool, though. You're just going to, holy shit. But I can't say anything about it. Aside from that, I think Professor Koshneves will have some really cool stuff. We're going to expect, I think we can expect the cost to go down, the part turnaround time to go up. The thing that I told all my students is the day that we start seeing these show up at Kinko's, which I've given a year before we'll start seeing them at Kinko's, that's when things get exciting because we start really democratizing fabrication and we start really inviting everyone to play. We already have open source 3D software called Blender 3D and SketchUp, and those are decent for free, and you can create fantastic 3D models and get them printed. So we can expect a lot of that. I think the medical world's going to be the big one. Disability's huge. Already now, here are a couple little just fun nuggets that you can entertain your friends with at next cocktail party. So the machines, like this is a part out of an EOS P730 machine. It's a wiring harness. What's cool about it is they printed this on their machine. So, hinge and everything. This came out of their machine just like it is. They can print the hinges all together. So that's an example of the machine printing itself.
Companies are now outsourcing, not to India and not to China. They're outsourcing to the customer. All you need to do is go to the ATM machine. At the ATM machine, you punch in some numbers, you get your money presumably, but what you've done is taken over a job that previously was done by a teller inside a bank. And in fact, we calculate that something like the equivalent of 200,000 telejobs are what people now make unnecessary by themselves, by we using the machines ourselves and substituting our work unpaid for the work of those tellers. And the same thing is true in many, many other activities where we take on and do for ourselves work that we previously bought in the money economy. We're now taking care of and doing without pay in what we call the non-money economy or the prosumer economy. Prosuming is going to explode. Why is that? It's going to explode because we're creating new technologies that individuals can use to do things for themselves. So it used to be, if you took a photograph, you then had to send that to Kodak in Rochester, New York, in order to get it developed and printed. So, and then it'll come back to your local drugstore and you pick it up a week later and you had a photograph. And you paid for that. Now you buy a camera, digital camera, and you make your own. You get your own pictures. So you are now doing work that used to be done in that Kodak factory. Okay? We are now developing and will be developing a generation of exceedingly powerful machines for individuals to use to create economic value, even though, again, it's not counted.
Right.
And so I believe we're going to see a tremendous explosion. And if you want to if you really want the breath taken away, think of this in terms of human history. At the beginnings of human history, everything people did, they did for themselves. There was no money economy. So you grew your own food, you ate as much of it as you could get before somebody took it away from you, probably the local lord. You grew your own food, you sewed your own clothes, you made your own boots. So everything was done outside the money economy. It was a non-money economy. Then gradually, money was introduced along with trade and exchange and all the things we know about. And the assumption that we all made for a long, long time, and indeed most people make until now, is that the non-money economy would eventually just go away, that we would all be in the money economy. And that's what we should be studying. But in fact, the non-money economy is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger instead of going away. And again, if you follow this down the line, you're going from developing your own films to having a fab or desktop manufacturing unit sitting on your table. Now, I don't suppose you're going to build your own car or your own airplane on your table, but you will be capable of producing complex components or other things that you yourself want to use. Now, just like bloggers are using the net to write for free what journalists get paid to do. So you have unpaid effort. So it's not that we won't have jobs. I think there will be jobs, but there's a parallel hidden economy that must now be recognized, and we've got to start thinking about how to integrate that and to recognize the integration between that and the money economy.
The basic idea behind molecular nanotechnology is it is the physical underpinning for the singularity. It is that which provides the better the hardware for the better computer. It provides the hardware for lighter, stronger materials. It provides hardware for better medical technologies. There's a whole bunch of things that are coming where we need to have better capabilities in terms of building things, and that's the basic purpose of molecular nanotechnology, is to provide the physical basis on which a lot of this stuff then proceeds forward and takes advantage of it. So, convergent assembly is a way of building big things which is probably more amenable to use in manufacturing. Convergent assembly basically starts over here at the left. You have teeny tiny things, and you double the size at each step. If I have molecular parts that are 1 nanometer in size as inputs, I take the 1 nanometer parts, I put them, 8 of them together into a cube, I get a 2 nanometer part. I take 8 of those, I put them together into a cube, I get a 4 nanometer part. At each stage you can double the size, and at each stage it gets bigger and bigger. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. In 30 doublings, you've reached 1 meter in length, more or less, give or take a bit. So using this kind of architecture, you can go from atoms and molecules up to large objects in 30 steps. If you're using binary, you don't have to use binary. You could make a factor of 10 bigger at each step if you wanted to. But for conceptual purposes, it's easy to think of it in binary steps. And voila, you can have big things. The other implication of this self-replication, convergent assembly, marvelous architectures is that the manufacturing costs are going to go through the floor. Right now we have examples of self-replicating manufacturing systems. They're called agricultural products. Lumber, hay, potatoes. They're cheap. A potato is a miracle of biological machinery. And yet we think nothing of taking this miracle of biological machinery and mashing it with a little butter and having it for dinner. The reason is that it doesn't cost very much, and it doesn't cost very much because the biological molecular machines can make more molecular machines. And as we build our own molecular machines, those molecular machines will be able to build more molecular machines, and so the manufacturing costs go through the floor. Now, I'm not talking about design costs and licensing costs and patent fees and marketing fees and all the other stuff that goes along with making products and selling them. But once you drive the manufacturing costs through the floor and improve the quality to get every atom in the right place, that's going to have a big impact. So when you're thinking about the impact of a new technology, or in particular of a manufacturing technology, what you want to think about are the things that it can manufacture. And you say, okay, if you can, what about computers? What about medicine? What about structural elements? So the first thing we notice is that if you can get the atoms in the right place, you can make really powerful computers. Basically, you've been watching the computer revolution, you've been living the computer revolution. Well, we got a couple orders of magnitude more to go, and the pace looks like it's going to keep right up there as we move straight into the molecular logic elements and molecular memories. So you ought to be able to get something like 10 to the 24th logic operations per second in a computer the size of a sugar cube. That's a lot. And 10 to the 21st bits in the same volume. I was thinking about that. What is 10 to the 21st bits? Well, a CD, they're kind of old technology, I know, but CDs are, 500-600 megabytes, something like that. If you filled a football stadium with CDs, you'd get about 10 to the 21st bits. So if you take a football stadium of CDs and pack it into a sugar lump, that's pretty much what you got. Computer power is going to go up, say 10,000 Blue Gene supercomputers in one little sugar lump cube, all operating together. So today those would cost a whole bunch of money, But in the future, it's going to be, it's a fraction of a pound. If you're selling molecular computers by the pound, and you've got a cubic centimeter, that's not very much. You're going to be paying pennies for this thing. And another miraculous capability. This computer will be so powerful that it will be able to run Windows 2020 and it will be snappy. Miracles will never cease. High-density memory. This is a proposal made a couple of years ago to have a high-density read-only memory. You have a surface, and the zeros and ones are encoded by storing fluorines and hydrogens bonded to the surface, and then you have a probe that moves along and reads out whether it's looking at a fluorine or a hydrogen. And you get very high-density memory if you do this. If one atom stores 1 bit, that's good density, that's a pretty good storage density. There are a bunch of medical capabilities. Respirocytes, when you breathe in oxygen, and your red blood cells carry the oxygen to your body. And when you hold your breath, you've only got a little bit of oxygen both in your lungs and in your tissues. Well, if you have artificial red blood cells that can hold a lot more oxygen, you could hold your breath for an hour, which would be kind of nice. And there's some advantages to that, particularly if you have a heart attack. Microbivores, devices that would detect and ingest invaders, pathogens in the circulatory system. If you could clear out those infectious diseases more rapidly and more effectively, then we could eliminate more diseases more rapidly and cure more infections more efficiently. And finally, a chromalocyte. That's a device that is more complicated, but would selectively target individual cells. It would carry as a payload a new set of chromosomes, and it would remove the chromosomes that were in a cell and replace them with a new set of chromosomes pre-programmed to be properly set up for that particular cell. So these are the kind of devices that look like they're feasible and are coming. We're also going to have better materials. So diamond has a strength-to-weight ratio over 50 times that of steel. And as a consequence, if you look at various applications like the space shuttle, or pick your favorite aerospace application, if you have an improvement of 50 to 1 in the strength-to-weight ratio, and furthermore the costs drop through the floor because your manufacturing costs are $1 a kilogram or something, suddenly a whole bunch of applications open up. Low-cost access to space, really powerful airplanes, very light, strong, durable materials. And it's not only critical for rockets and airplanes, it is also going to be useful in other applications, whether it's trucks or cars or ships or even just furniture. The 100-pound Cadillac would be kind of nice. And space, as I said, space, there have been some calculations. It looks like single-stage to orbit vehicles would be dramatically improved given this large improvement in strength-to-weight ratio. This device would be 60 kilogram structural mass. This is, it's your VW, right? You go out and get into your VW, and it weighs 60 kilograms. Oh, and by the way, when you fuel it up with something like 3,000 kilograms of fuel, most of the weight in this thing is in the fuel. If you fuel it up with 3,000 kilograms of fuel, you can now get into your VW with, a friend and some luggage in the back seat, and zoom, zip off into low Earth orbit. And if you run through the calculations and stuff, it turns out that it all works, and there's been a published article describing this. And that's pretty dramatic. That means, among other things, that space becomes accessible, and all these ideas of, colonizing space, visiting space, space hotels, all of those look like, yeah, they're in the cards. What we've been seeing, of course, is we've been moving in that direction, and what I'm saying here is, yeah, the capability, we're going to continue moving in that direction until we actually achieve it. Okay, in diamond, it's simply the fact that if you build diamond and you can have economics, if you can build it inexpensively, suddenly what was once a very expensive jewel becomes a structural material. There was a shift like this with aluminum. Aluminum used to be very, very expensive until the development of the process for making aluminum that suddenly shifted aluminum from being this incredibly valuable material that rich people would use for their knives and forks to show off their wealth to a structural material you could use in airplanes. So we're going to be seeing a similar shift with regard to diamond. And also there are a bunch of materials related to diamond. Stain-resistant pants, there are nano pants. Nano pants are a revolutionary change. They are transformative. In fact, I was at a session where people were talking about nanotechnology, and someone was discussing the nano pants, and the guy in the back of the room said, "Oh my gosh, this is going to utterly change everything. I work for a soap company and detergents, and we're going to be, you know, if you don't need detergents, we're going to be wiped out." Higher standard of living. One of the nice things about this technology is that it should have a big impact on how we interact with the environment. If you have a better technology, then you can have a higher standard of living while having a smaller impact on the environment. And this is going to show up in the production of food. Certainly if you have better greenhouse capabilities. If I can inexpensively build really good greenhouses, then that's going to provide me with much more plentiful, much lower cost food. Nanotechnology comes associated with this concept of low-cost manufacturing and mechanosynthesis and so forth and so on that some might perceive as dangerous, therefore we'll simply dissociate ourselves from it. So it was a politically motivated argument that had no technical merit whatsoever.
People do not have purchasing power, and this situation will progress rapidly. There are no more ways to employ citizens to maintain their purchasing power, because practically humans are less efficient and thus less productive than machines. Technology is so advanced that it can produce an abundance of goods and services, even if the system tries to restrict production.
Yes, artificial intelligence will eventually replace doctors, lawyers, engineers, intellect, and be capable of making decisions that humans never dreamed possible. It is neither communistic nor socialistic nor free enterprise. No system remains static. The kings, most of them are gone, and newer systems are coming in. No system can freeze and hold their particular position.
You have to wonder, if man can be exempted from work, but production still continues and even improves, why are we still limiting ourselves? I think, if you watch the documentary from the beginning, you have an answer to this question. The system itself. Collapse symptoms seem obvious, but it's offensive to a human being who considers himself intelligent to wait for the system to collapse in order to change something. And remember, if we face a crash, it will be a disaster for many people. They do not see any other solution because they are poorly informed. They think that violence is part of human nature. They are caught up with money as an abstraction, forgetting that it is a unit of measure like meters, and forget that technology is just a tool. It's not something to be scared of. These people do not understand that solutions exist. So when they face this crash, they'll become angry. That's why something must be done now.
Most jobs will be phased out, and in the next 10 to 15 years, most diagnosticians will be phased out. All you do is hold up a skin condition in front of a scanner. It'll scan your skin condition and give you the latest treatment. Most doctors will be phased out. The same with lawyers. It takes about an hour and a half to design a computer that can do all the work a lawyer does. So you see, most jobs are insecure. So the system is self-eliminating. You don't have to shoot anybody. You don't need a revolution. It's called biosocial pressures that change society, not Fresco or Stalin or anybody else. They're changed by physical conditions. Lincoln did not free the slaves. It was conditions that made slavery inefficient.
As extremely chaotic as our system is, it's amazing that it has survived so long.
How'd we ever get in this mess, and is there any way out?
Well,
How's that for a start?
That's a good question. Well, we got into the mess by not paying attention and by business as usual. Humans have been on this planet for something like 1 million years, and for the vast bulk of that time, things changed extremely slowly. The population increased very slowly, our technology increased, improved, but by very slow steps. And just recently, this is what's called an exponential. It's flat for a long time, and then boom, you suddenly get a huge increase. Increase in population, increase in technology, increase in pollution, increase in our powers to disturb the environment, to change the planetary environment. But we're the same old human beings as we were 1,000 years ago and 100,000 years ago. Not much has changed with us. And so it's very hard for us to catch on that there's a new situation, and we have to adapt to it. On the other hand, that's one thing we humans are good at, adapting, figuring out. We're smart. That's our principal advantage over all the other species. I mean, we're not faster, stronger, better diggers. We don't fly all by ourselves. What we do is figure out and build because of our hands. And so I think there's certainly a chance of getting out of this mess, but not by business as usual, not by the idea that we shouldn't plan ahead, not by the idea that anybody can do whatever the hell they want and it doesn't affect the environment. There has to be a new way of looking at the world. A lot of those issues that you raised are global issues. For example, global warming, the greenhouse effect. You put gases like carbon dioxide or CFCs, other greenhouse gases, into the atmosphere over this country. They don't stay over that country. Those molecules don't have passports. They don't know about national sovereignty. That's something they never heard of. The atmospheric circulation spreads those gases all over the planet. And so what one country does affects all the other countries. The solution to these kinds of problems has to be that everybody on Earth works together. So there has to be a new way of looking at the future, and that is that we're all humans, members of the same species, on one fragile little planet. We're all in this together, and we have to work together. That's kind of the silver lining of these crises. They are forcing us to become a planetary species.